First question is, why can't we find NPV? What is the difference when we use DCF? This is question from Kumar PR. Kumar, is a very good question, and let me answer it this way. There is a big difference between NPV and discounted cash flow method. NPV, when you are using NPV, you are simply finding value of the asset by doing the physical valuation of the asset. In case of discounted cash flow, you are doing the valuation based on the earning capacity or earning potential of that entity. This is the difference between the NPV and DCF. What is the another difference? Another difference is NPV you will use mostly in case of the assets which are not independently revenue generating, or you will use NPV in case of a company which is going in for liquidation or which is going in for closure. So in those cases you will use the NPV method. But when it is a running company, when it is an asset which has the capacity of independently generating revenue and the profit, in that case you will use the discounted cash flow method. So this is the difference between the NPV and DCF, and the reason as to when you will use the NPV and when you will use the discounted cash flow method. Next question is from Bhaskaran. Valuation is done by future cash flow for a particular period. If in COVID-19 the situation varies, valuation also go down. Please explain what about our valuation. Bhaskaran, very good question. Very good question. Now please remember, valuation, whenever we are doing any valuation, valuation is always on a particular date. I'm sure by experience we know that whenever we are getting engagement letter, or whenever we are giving an engagement letter to a client, it would always mention as to what is the valuation date. What is the valuation date? And as the valuation professional, it is our responsibility, it is our obligation, it is our duty to ensure that we do the valuation keeping that date in mind and the factors which are prevalent on that date. Please remember, in valuation, I can take into account only what is prevalent on the day when I'm doing valuation. I cannot anticipate things happening in future. You know, some corona happening once again, earthquake happening once again, lightning happening somewhere. I can, or some kind of windfall accruing to the company. I cannot take all those into account. So whenever I am doing valuation, I have to take into account the factors which are prevalent on the date of the valuation. So today we are in a situation of corona. All right. Now, as the valuation professional, what is my responsibility? My responsibility is to estimate as to what impact corona is going to have on the asset that I am valuing, and how long that impact is going to last. So I will, as a valuation professional, I will have to take a call. I will have to make the judgment, maybe independently, maybe in consultation with other people. But I will have to arrive at, and I will have to take into account and come to a conclusion. Oh yes, this company is impacted by corona, and assuming that the corona disappears now in next 6 months, the impact of corona on this company's financials is going to be negligible, and therefore I can simply ignore the impact of corona if this is what is my assumption is. But if my assumption is because of corona this company is going to suffer for next 3 years, that means when I am making my financial projections, or when I am getting financial projections from the company, I will need to ensure that this impact of 3 years on the projections is taken into account. So this is how Bhaskaran, the COVID-19 impact will be taken into account. Now there's a question from GVA Rao. is 7 years explicit common for all assets like IT companies and SEZ? A very good question. Very good question, Mr. Rao. Now, no, this 7 year period that I have mentioned is not a rule. It's not a rule. It will vary from company to company, industry to industry, and that is what we as valuation professional have to take into account. So we will need to apply our own judgment, our own experience, our expertise, our knowledge, and also consult the concerned company and find out from them and do some research and study and find out as to IT company, SEZ company, or a company into artificial intelligence, a company into fintech industry. Now we will need to arrive at a judgment as to what kind of explicit forecast period will be there for a company like these. So that is the judgment that we have to make, and therefore this period this period will vary from company to company and asset to asset. Then there is a question from Prakash N, whether this method can be applied to any running business. Yes, of course. Yes, Prakash, discounted cash flow is used in case of running business only. So you will use the discounted cash flow method only in case of a going concern. And going concern means it's a running company. It is a company which is already in the operation. So that is the answer to your question. Then there is a question from Manik Kapoor. Is FCFF is leveraged cash flow and FCFE is unlevered cash flow? And Manik, you are absolutely right. You are absolutely right. So FCFF, free cash flow for the firm, is the leveraged cash flow. That means FCFF is the cash flow which is available for all the stakeholders. So when I say all the stakeholders, what does it mean? It means the people who have given the equity to the company, and also the people who have given the debt to the company, including the people who have given the preference share capital to the company. So that is your answer to your question. FCFF is levered cash flow, and FCFE is unlevered cash flow, and you are absolutely right. Adai Kalawan, any other method to determine the discount rate? If so, how? Adai Kalawan, I'm sorry. For the purpose of discount rate, these are the only methods which are available. And why these are the only methods available? Because number one, please remember, as far as debt is concerned, cost of debt is beyond any doubt, right? Isn't it? So if you are paying interest on a loan, that rate of interest minus the tax benefit that will accrue to you becomes your cost of debt. There is no second method or approach to find that. For cost of equity, as I said, what is cost of equity? It is your expectation of the shareholders. But you can't determine the expectation of shareholders when the numbers are used. So then use the CAPM model. CAPM model is used globally and is very frequently used method. It is much more reliable and dependable for arriving at the cost of equity. So Manik has got one more question. What if a company is not listed, then how to calculate beta? Oh, that's a very good question, Manik. Now, in case if a company is not listed on a stock market, which of course is possible many times, in that case, what you can do, you can find out if there is a similar kind of company. The company for which you are doing the evaluation is not listed, of course, but there may be a company which is more or less of same kind, which is available on the stock, listed on the stock market. So you can find out the beta of such a similar company, make some adjustment to that method, to that beta, and based on that beta, you can, based on the beta of the similar type of company, you can decide the beta of this company which is not listed. So this is how you can do. we have crossed the time, so in case you would like me to continue, I can do so, else we can call it a day. So whatever you say.
Sir, if it's okay for you, we'll continue, sir.
All right, okay, good.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Right. So then there is a question from Sanjeev Agarwal. How to differentiate the discount rate for terminal value of NEFP? Very good. Now, Sanjeev, please pay attention, because this is a very sensitive and subtle area, and where a lot of people who do the evaluation of FSA also tend to make a mistake. Now, I will tell you in very brief, and just pay attention. For finding out the discount rate for the terminal period and EFP, so first you will find out the discount rate for the explicit forecast period. So let's say that your explicit forecast period is of 7 years, and let's say your discount rate is 15%, right? So what you will do, so for the first year, your discount factor, how will you calculate? 1 divided by 1.15 is the discount factor for the year 1. How will you find out the discount factor for year 2? Discount factor of year 1 divided by 1.15, that becomes your discount factor for year 2, and this way you will keep on arriving at the discount factor for all the 7 years, and then the discount factor for the 7th year divided by 1.15, and the outcome is going to be the discounting factor for the terminal period. This is much simple, no complication. Where is the complication? Pay attention. What will be the cash flow for the purpose of the terminal cash flow? So remember, the cash flow for the terminal period is going to be the cash flow of the last year of the explicit forecast period divided by the cost of capital minus the growth rate of the terminal period. And this is how you will be arriving at the discount factor for the explicit forecast period and also for the terminal period. There is a question from Winnie. How to take discount rate? If I know COC, how will I take the rate? I have explained, Winnie, this. The discount rate can be of two types. Discount rate for the FCFF and discount rate for FCFE. What is the difference between the two? The difference between the two is the discount rate for the FCFF is going to be the weighted average cost of debt and equity, and the discount rate for the FCFE is only going to be the cost of equity, that you will find out using the CAPM model. Then Sanjeev.
Sir, before we go to the next person, sir, there are some raised hands. We'll just I will unmute them. We can take questions from them, sir, and continue with this.
Pardon me. No, I'm sorry. Can you please repeat once again?
No, there are people who have raised hands much before.
Okay.
I will unmute them. Let them ask their questions, sir.
All right. Okay. Sure.
I am unmuting K.S. Ayyadurai, sir. Sir, you can talk, sir. Sir, Ayyadurai, sir, you can talk.
Hello, am I audible now?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We are audible.
Pramod sir, good evening. Namaste. Ram.
Yeah. Good evening. Good evening.
Sir, I want to know, I am right now handling restructuring of hospitality industry. It's to be very precise, IT park, where more than 50% of the guys have already prematurely terminated their anchor lease and left bearing the loss. Now, the whole valuation in the past was, the pre-COVID era was done based on income approach only, absolutely based on the future rentals inflow.
Mm-hmm.
When you want to adjust and redefine the value to study the viability per se about the repayment capacity, for the slipped asset NPA. Now, how do we go about? Do we adjust only the reduced possible rental inflow in future, or adjust the rate, or both?
Okay, Mr. Ayyadurai, the answer to your question, I can give you in principle. And in principle answer is, ultimately, what we have to do? We have to arrive at the fair value. And fair value meaning what? Fair value meaning what is actually possible. So guiding by this bottom line or this guiding principle, you have to apply the cash flows and the rate of discounting accordingly. So this is how, based on the limited info that I have at my disposal from you, I can answer it this way. But in case if you want to have a more detailed reply to this, maybe you can give me a call tomorrow morning and or send me the details by way of mail or WhatsApp. Then we can discuss, and I would be able to give you step by step the process that you need to follow in the changed scenario of this IT park.
I'll do that. I may have to do that. I'll do that. Thanks, sir.
Welcome.
I am unmuting Lenin Sachdeva, sir. Sir, you can unmute and talk, sir. I have unmuted Mr. Atul Pandey. Yes, sir. Lenin Sachdeva, sir. Please, sir. Oh.
Okay. All right. So, right.
That in discounting cash flow method, we are using one term, that is IRR, internal rate of return. So this method is used for basically for, as you say earlier, that this method can be used for a comparison or for decision making. So can you explain the term, sir, IRR? What is the role of the IRR?
Okay. Okay. Yes, Lenin. IRR is internal rate of return. And what is internal rate of return? Internal rate of return is the rate at which, if the future cash flows are discounted, then the NPV is going to be 0. Or if IRR is the rate at which, when the future cash flows are discounted, the present value of all the future cash flows is going to be same as the outflow. So that is your internal rate of return. I hope that answers your query.
Yes, yes.
Okay, good. All right. So Sanjeev is request to repeat how to calculate the cost of equity. While referring to listed company data, they are of multiple asset and may not applicable to one specific location. Okay, Sanjeev, let me answer your second part first. That is the listed company may have multiple asset. Okay, so remember when you're using the discounted cash flow method, multiple locations is of no bearing. Multiple location of the assets of the company is of no bearing, because what you have to take into account is the cost of equity, and the cost of equity of the whole company is one only. So when I say one, that means it is one figure. So the second part of your question, you do not have to worry about it at all, because multi-location of multi-locational or multi-assets that a company may have has got no bearing on the cost of equity. Now, how to calculate the cost of equity? You want this to be explained once again. So remember, in principle, what is cost of equity? In principle, cost of equity is nothing but expectations of the shareholders, expectations of the owners, expectations of the investors. That is cost of equity. So it's very simple. Somebody who's putting his money into a company, that person who is putting money into this company, he has got some return expectation. So that return expectation is supposed to be the cost of this equity. But there is a problem. And what is the problem? The problem is A company will not have one shareholder. A company will have multitudes of shareholders. If a company has got multitudes of shareholders, then different shareholders will have a different expectation of return, isn't it? So a company having 1 lakh shareholders, it's not that all 1 lakh shareholders will expect a return of 15%. Some of them will be happy with 10%, somebody may like 20%, somebody may like 25%, somebody may even expect 30% also. So that also is possible. That also is possible. So therefore, what you do, you use the capital asset pricing model. So capital asset pricing model will help you to find the cost of equity. So this is how you will do. Now, friends, I think I will have to excuse because there is another session that I have to attend now, and I'm getting a reminder. So I think I can take one last question, and then we can wind up.
One question is there.
Yeah.
We can use a profit-based method in also hotel valuations.
Lenin said we have some of the question unanswered in the box, and we'll just take this. And one is a long question. Anyway, I will get the answers from Pramod sir for your person. And there is one question from Devendra Arun Patekar sir. If you can scroll down. Maybe it looks like a long question. If you can answer that,
okay,
then we can close.
Okay, sure. How to identify the difference between business value and value of tangible assets without IP based on cash flow? Is it possible to, in absence of information about beta from a specific market, can we identify beta from another market? Okay, so let me take the first question first. How to identify the difference between business value and value of tangible asset without IP based on cash flow? So yes, of course, Devendra, you can do it. So what you do is first you find out the business value using the discounted cash flow, and from the business value that you have arrived at using the discounted cash flow, you minus the value of the tangible assets without IP based on the cash flow, and the difference is what will give you the value of a business without the tangible assets. So in other words, it may be considered as a value of the intangible assets. So I hope that that gives you a different perspective about this question of yours. Question number 2, in absence of information about beta from a specific market, can we identify beta from another market? Remember, our objective when we are doing valuation is to find out the fair value. So the purpose is very clear, and that is to find out the fair value. So if in your view, by using a different market return as the reference for arriving at the beta for this asset that you're trying to value, if in your view is going to give, this is going to help you in arriving at the fair value, this is absolutely fine, and you can mention it so in your valuation report that in case of this company, beta was not available for this reason, and therefore we have used another another market return for the purpose of arriving at the beta, and that should be absolutely fine. So
the next 2 things are just feedback, sir. If you could rate it, that's not a question.
Okay, actually some maybe what I can suggest is okay, you want me to take one more question?
No, if you could just people just they were asking for one more session from you with a case study, sir. That's the feedback. Many have given the chat messages.
Okay. So then what I can suggest is maybe these questions we will take together with the case study. Is that fine?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. All right.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Should be fine, sir.